So good morning, everybody. Ryo-san was telling me that he is really excited to be here. Looking forward to having this panel with you guys, and he was kind of curious. What do you guys really want to get from this panel today? He's really open to what you guys want to experience, what you guys want to hear from Ryo-san here today. Anything? Sounds great. So let's start off with then some questions and answers, then we'll go from there. You guys have any questions? Sir, with glasses.
I wanted to learn about how Ryo Horikawa got into voice acting for anime.
Okay, the question was, how did Ryo-san get into voice acting for anime?
最初にこの世界に入ったのが、防衛省みたいな、夢選手ウィングマンっていう選手がいまして、それが僕はアニメを最初で参加しました。聞こえません。Sorry. Sorry. はい、夢選手ウィングマンっていうのが僕の最初に見た作品ですね。それが、そんなに僕は受かると思ってなかったんですけれど、そこからが僕のアニメの仕事のキャリアのスタートですね。これ何年前とは言いたくないですけど、そういうやつが。
So Ryo-san said that, specifically concerning anime, he auditioned for a anime called Yume Senshi Wingman, or Wingman, as we might call it here. Okay, and he didn't think he was gonna get the audition, get the part that he auditioned for, but he was able to get it, and that kind of started his career into voice acting in anime. But he's really reluctant to tell you how many years ago that really was. Sir.
Yeah. One question is, has he ever had a character that he just couldn't get in the spirit of doing? And if so, how did he work around that to be able to perform the job?
じゃあ、キャラクターで映像できないっていう演技できないっていうキャラクターいましたか？もしいたらどういうふうにできてるんですか？
それはないですね。どんなキャラクターでも僕はやるつもりですし、できないということを自分自身認められない、負けず嫌いなところが。
He said no. Him personally, he doesn't feel that there's not much he can't do. He doesn't like to recognize the fact that there are limitations, for himself or for anything for that matter. So he's never encountered it.
Good answer.
Okay, sir in the back.
Do you have a preference between voicing different media like anime or games or different types of voice acting work?
ゲームとかアニメとか何が好きですか？
何でも好きですけど、表現することが僕は何も好きなので、それはゲームであろうと、テレビであろうと、例えば劇場公開、映画であろうと、何でやっても見てくれる方がいらっしゃるわけですから、それが一番大事なことです。
He said, he actually enjoys working on any kind of media, whether it be TV, movie, games, anime, it doesn't matter. He really enjoys working, doing whatever. For him, the most important thing is to, do his work, always constantly keeping in mind about how the viewers are going to perceive his work and how they'll, kind of interpret his work. That's what's most important to him, not so much the medium that he is participating in.
Who's been your favorite character in voice acting?
難しいね、いつも聞かれるんだけど、
はい。
別に嫌いと言ってるつもりはないんですけど、自分がやってるキャラクターっていうのは全て愛され さないといけないんですよ。だから全てのキャラクターっていうのは僕やっぱり全身全霊で命を込めてやってるつもりなので、なんて言うんでしょうね、別に見るから私たちが何やってるかっていうのは全て自分でやってるキャラクターを愛さないとできないかなと思います。はい。
So that's a really difficult question. It's something that is often asked, what's your favorite character? He always has a problem, answering this question, despite the fact that it gets asked so often. The reason is because, he feels that when he takes on a character, he has to completely be in love with that character. He has to, completely absorb everything what the character is about for him to be able to, perform the character, be the character. He has an image of that character, and he really loves that character. So, he doesn't really view it from the outside looking in, like, this character I enjoy. It's more, I love this character, and therefore, I can perform this character. So it's a very difficult question to answer.
自分の心の中に思っていること、例えばそのキャラクターに対して、なんだろうな、役者の仕事って、とてもそこは特別なんだと思うんですけれど、他の人の人生を生きることができるわけですよ。僕はオリガードっていう一人の人間として自分の人生を生きていますけれど、例えばベジータであるか、他のキャラクターであるか、それぞれの人生を生きることができる。だから表現する仕事ってとても特別であるし、まだそこは楽しみなのかな。
So, he feels that, actors in general, they're very privileged in that they're allowed to live other people's lives. They're able to, step into another person's life and become that person. And he feels that that's a huge privilege as an actor, voice actor, whatever the case may be. That's something that, he thinks is extremely important to have this opportunity to live a person's life, such as something like Vegeta. He gets to be Vegeta. And for him, that's something he thinks it's very special. He never takes that for granted. And it's something that brings immense joy and enjoyment to his work and joy to his life.
I'm just kind of curious, how does the auditioning process work?
オーディションするときですか。オーディションっていうか、僕はずっと子供の頃から、お芝居というか、ステージでやったりとか、普通に映画でやったりとか、子役ですね、日本語でやっていたんで、まさかその時ってアニメをやると思ってなかったんですよ。僕は子供時代ね。僕も子供時代とはアニメを見てましたし、例えば、鉄腕の時だったりとか、非常に名詞が見てたんですけど、まさか自分がやるとはやるようになるとは思ってなかったんで、それは最初のオーディションでまさか受かるわけはないと思ってたんです。チャレンジしない。でもそれが、受かって認められて、でそこからいろんな仕事が舞い込むようになって、だからなんでしょうね、不思議ですね。
So, for him personally, what he can say as far as auditions and, what that's like, Yosan's been an actor since he was very little. So, I guess we would call it child actor. He was, he did a lot of stage work, a lot of film work. So, he started as a child, and, he had a lot of exposure doing entertainment work that way. So he didn't really think about, he was going to get into anime at all, actually, during those days. He was just a child, and he enjoyed watching anime. So, he'd come home and he'd watch Astro Boy and really love it, but never, in the bottom of his mind did he think, oh, I'm going to do anime. He just really enjoyed watching anime, just like everybody else. So when he went to that first audition, he didn't think he was going to get it. In fact, he was really surprised when he did get the part, but, he did get the part. And so, once he was accepted, the work started to come in from there. So, something that he always reflects on and thinks, man, that's pretty special.
奪った時はすごく嬉しかったですよね。
He was extremely happy when he got it, though. He wants to make sure you guys know that.
Yes, I was wondering, how often do you work directly with people within the same recording session? Is there a particular voice actor or actors who you work directly with who you felt brought out the best in you in terms of character development?
いつも一緒に
2つ目は話したけれど、なんだろうな、例えば日本の場合だと、一つの作品、例えばドラゴンボールとか何でもいいんですけど、撮るときっていうのは、すべてのキャラクターやってる人が一堂にスタジオに集まって、レコーディングをするというのが普通なんですけど、場合によっては、一人一人スケジュールが合わないときがありますので、抜き取りということになりますけれど、今も聞いたんですけど、アメリカの場合っていうのは、結構一人一人で単独で撮るというのが多いというふうに聞いてるんですけど、要するに一緒にみんなで一緒にやると、なんていうのかな、演技者同士のその呼吸というか、間合いというのが測れて、僕はそっちの方が好きなんですけど、いいわけですとして。だから、なんだろう、例えば、誰でもいいですけれど、古谷友さんとか、神谷健さんとか、野沢雅子さんとか、いろいろいらっしゃいますが、でも、いつも一緒にやってるってわけじゃないんですよね。
So the question was, are there voice actors he likes to work with very often, and if there's any actor that he's worked with that brings out the best in him? So to answer that question, it's kind of hard. For example, in Japan, if there's one project that they're working on, all the actors will go to the studio all at the same time, be in the same recording booth all together. And so, sometimes, of course, schedule doesn't fit, and that's not possible. You have to do individual recordings and such. But for the most part, they all are in the studio together, and they're all working together. So by doing so, there's a lot of synergy there. There's a lot of, you can feed off of each other in that kind of environment where you're all in the same room and you're working with each other. You kind of get that unspoken vibe that you can get from people, interacting with them that way. So, he heard that, here in the U.S., most voice actors, they go in individually and, record on their own. So in that sense, it's hard to answer your question, who brings out the best in you? And of course, there are many, many actors that he works with that, he can say that's the case. But, it's more the group being in the studio, I think, allows, that kind of relationships to develop.
どれがいいかって言えないけど、いろんなやり方があるので、何でもいいんですけど、でも
you can't say, who's the best or what's the best way. You know what I mean? You can't say, oh, the way they do it in Japan is better than the way you do it in the U.S. is better. You can't say that. There's many different ways of approaching it, of course. Let's make sure that's very clear too.
コミュニケーションを取るということは非常に大事なことだと思いますね。例えば、僕がやってるクリストファーそうですし、教師、リー君もそうですし、いろんな方がいらっしゃると思います。だから、そういうことでアメリカに来て、コミュニケーションを取ることはすごく大事なことで、とても大事なことで、嬉しいことです。
For him, communication is important. It's extremely important. So, he feels very fortunate that he was able to come to the U.S. here on this trip, and meet and talk with, and see Vic, and Christopher, and all the other people that he wants to see, and he really appreciates that opportunity. It brings great enjoyment and joy to his, to his life when he's able to have these opportunities. He's very grateful for that chance. Hi.
Thank you. We were lucky enough to have Furukawa Toshiro-san with us at the basement. And he was talking, he was Piccolo in Dragon Ball Z. So he was talking about battle cry. How they have to do battle. How they have to practice to do a battle cry. So yeah, he was like that. Oh, that's how the director told us to practice with that battle cry. So yeah, this is just another story. So between you and Horikawa-san, personally, do you think you have a better battle cry? And is there any funny behind the scenes stories?
彼女は前古川さんとカンベンションがあったんで話を聞いたんですけど、その時に戦いの声についての話を聞いたんですよ。練習とか使い方とかいろいろ聞いたので、リョウさんと古川さんとどっちが戦いの声がいいですか？いいと思いますか？でもし面白い話とか。
2人ともいいと思います。
They're both equally.
質問の答えにはなってませんけれど、古川さんもそうですし、野沢雅子さんもそうですし、とても素敵な人。大体レコーディング終わると食事に行くことが多いんですけれど、野沢雅子さんとかとてもキュートな方なので、なんだろう、そういうのはやっぱり出るのかな、アーティングするときに、その人の人間性というのが出るんだなっていう気がしますね。
So he apologized. That's not, a real serious answer to your question. And he apologizes for that. But, it's really difficult to answer because, the people he gets the opportunity to work with, they're all really, really great people. He has a lot of respect for the people that he gets to work with. He spends a lot of time with them. They go out to eat together. So he, gets to know them intimately, and he really thinks very, highly of the people he gets the chance to work with, especially on projects like Dragon Ball Z, where they've been together for a while. And he thinks that, the personality of the people he works with comes out in their voices and in the characters that they're portraying. And he thinks that... Oh, in everything, yeah. So in everything that they do, their personality comes out, so he thinks that's very fascinating. It's really enjoyable for him to watch.
例えば悪役をやっても、例えばヒーローをやっても全部そうだと思いますけど、その人のキャラクターというか人間性っていうのが出てくると思う、どっかに出てくると思うんですよ。それがいわゆる映像であっても、ボイスであっても。
So he thinks that, regardless of whether that person plays the role of, say, a villain or a hero, their personality comes through, whether it be voice acting or as a screen actor or on stage or whatever the case may be, as an actor, their personality comes out, and that's coming from somewhere, from within them.
だって俺なんてひどいやつでしょ、何人も殺してるし、仕事を潰してるしね。
He said, he's an awful person. Think about it. Think about how many people he's killed, how many planets he's destroyed. He's an awful man.
Yeah, what about that one planet? They're not.
例えば悪人だろうが、例えば正義のヒーローだろうが、やっぱりその人のパーソナリティが出てくると思うので、僕が一番気をつけているということは、普段どう生きているか、それってすごく大事なことだと思うんですよ。それがボイスアクティングであろうが、例えば歌であろうが、ステージであろうが、ライブであろうが、やっぱり出てくると思うんですよ。それは隠しきれない、嘘をつけないと僕は思います。
So, whether it be anime, let's say it's anime, you're playing a hero or a villain, like you were saying, your personality comes out, right? Even in song or on stage, anything that you do, your personality comes out, right? I mean, you just can't help that. We all know what he's talking about. So the most important thing for him that he's very careful of and cognizant about is how he lives his life every day. Because he knows that your personality comes out. It's something that you cannot hide or lie about when you're, singing, or you're acting, regardless of the medium of actor, it's going to come through. He really believes that. So he's very, very careful and cognizant about how, he lives his life every day.
そうだから自分がどう生きてきたかっていうのが出てしまうので、そう、まあ例えば若い人たちにヤングジェネレーションということなんですけど、芝居がうまい人、あるいは歌がうまい人、いくらでもいる、プロの中でも、その中でキャスティングされる人っていうのは選ばれるじゃないですか。それを選ばれるためにどうすればいいかとなると、ものすごく難しいと思うんですよ。だからそれが僕はいつも若手に言ってる、なんていうのかな、いい男でいい女であれよ、素敵な人間であれよっていうことが一番大事なことだと思うんですね。
So, kind of, you were saying that, kind of advice to like the younger people really, is that right now, today, there's a lot of good actors, technically wise. There's a lot of great singers with wonderful voices. There's a lot of them out there right now. So it becomes an issue of casting. How do you get picked? How do you get selected among all the people with all this talent? And that's where your personality comes out. That's why it's so important. So that's why you have to be a good person. You have to strive to be a great person. Because it is so important when it comes to that issue. I hope that was a good answer to your question.
Very great answer.
Sir in the back.
Very simple question for any series aside, how do you feel is your favorite, scene that you've acted out? Very straightforward question. Like within any series, how do you feel is your favorite scene that you've acted out? Like, which is your favorite scene you've acted out?
難しいね。何でもいいんです。何でもいいですね。何でもいい。一番好きだ。
一番好き、全部好きなんですけれど、僕ね、演じてる側から言うのは変なんですけど、全てのキャラ、自分がやったキャラクター愛さないとできないんですよ。だからこれがいい、優劣はないんですよ。これが悪いとかないんですよ。こっちがいい、あっちがっていう順番がないんで、それはちゃんとやっぱり演技者としてはダメだとあったとしてはダメだと思うんですね。だから敬語ではなく自分のやった役、それはどんなキャラクターであってもやっぱり愛してやらないと、僕の場合ですよ。他の人は知りませんが、僕の場合はやっぱりそうしないといけないかなという気がするんですね。
So that's a really difficult question, one that is asked too, pretty frequently. But it comes back to the question was if there was a favorite scene that he had, regardless of the series. And that's a really difficult question for him to answer because, as he said previously, he has to love the character that he's playing. He is the character that he's playing. He has to love that character. There's no priority. There's no order. To those characters that he loves and enjoys. And as an actor, he thinks you can't really do the work unless you do love the character, And that's just him personally, It's not saying everybody else, is like this. But him personally, he has to love that character. He can't do it otherwise. So, it's really difficult to say, what character or what particular scene because, he truly loves that character.
例えばベジータなんかひどいやつじゃないですか。ね。これで人殺しもするし、でも愛さないといけないから。
So, for example, take Vegeta. He's a horrible person. He kills a lot of people. But, despite that, he loves that character, or he cannot play that character. He cannot be that character.
I never kill people.
Sir.
You partially answered my question earlier. I was going to ask about your background, but you said earlier you were a child actor. I was wondering if there was any other kind of specialized training or schooling you've had for voice acting work or stage work or anything like that.
今実際に日本で、学院をやってるんですけど、次のジェネレーション、育てていくジェネレーションのために僕は何を伝えるのかっていうことも大事なことだと思うので、やってるんですけど、今先ほども言った通り、もちろんレッスン、日々のレッスン、フィジカルなレッスンもそうですし、メンタル両方あると思うんですけど、発声法であるとか、それはもちろん大事なトレーニングなので、それを教えてますが、でも最終的に一番大事なところっていうのは、今言ったパーソナリティ、人間性、これは教えることはできないんですよ、人が人に。例えばトレーニングっていうのはノウハウっていうのは教えることができますけど、でもその人間性であるとか、その人のパーソナリティ、個性であるというのは教えることができないと思うので、それは自分自身が掴み取っていくしかないと思うんですね。Sorry, I can't speak English.
So, the question was, if he's taking, any training now, doing anything now to further his career. I guess is that?
Well, I would like his background.
His background. Okay, so going to that, it's a good question. Right now in Japan, he has a school, where he teaches, and he thinks it's important to raise up the next generation, and kind of teach them. He thinks that teaching is extremely important, to further the development of the next generation that's coming on. And of course, it's important to have to teach the physical, lessons or the mental aspects of the work that you're going to be doing, and the technical aspects as well. All that is extremely important. But again, the most important thing is the personality, your human nature, yourself, your psyche, if you will. That's what's most important. That's something that something that you yourself is going to have to grab, to master, to take on yourself, to develop, to further that. Teaching the technique, he can do that. He can teach you all the technique that you need, but the most important thing that has to be developed is up to you.
Yeah, that's right. 最初さから自分自身が怖いぐらいに出てきちゃいますから、そういう人がいてもどんな役をやってるとしても、だから演じてる人、actor, actress, whatever、非常に大事なことというのは、何をやってもその人の人間性が出てきちゃうから、その人自身が素敵じゃないと、どんな、例えば王子様であろうがヒロインであろうが、何をやっても素敵じゃなくなる。その人が逆に言うとしょうがったらね、その人が素敵だったらホームレスであろうが何であろうが素敵に見える。その人が持っている人間性どっかで出てきちゃう、多いようで隠しようがないので、だからどういう生きてるかということが一番大事かな。もっとターゲットレイと思います。と思います。
はい。So, he was saying that it's scary, in fact, if you think about it, how much of your personality, how much of your human nature, your psyche comes out in these characters. Regardless of the medium, again, an actor, singer, doesn't matter. You, personality, yourself, you are going to come out in your work. It's unavoidable. So, again, since it comes out that much, if you aren't a great person, if you don't develop that, if you aren't capable, if you don't be cognizant of that, you're not going to be able to make the character great, whether it be a king, a hero, a queen, or a homeless person, or a villain. Whatever the role may be, you're not going to be able to make that great. you know, whatever that character is, you cannot, you know, push it to its fullest potential because you can't hide it. You can't hide your personality. You can't run from that. You know, so it's all dependent on how you live real life every day. So, you know, you really have to be cognizant of that, be aware of that every day.
Yes, I was wondering, do you have any characters that you miss doing, playing? And also, how does it feel after such a long hiatus to have to revisit Vegeta, and starting with Son Goku and his friends return, and then Kai, and now hopefully the new Dragon Ball movie that's coming out in 2013. Also, and were you approached to do Andromeda Shun during Saint Seiya Omega, or did they just not go to you?
最初の3つですね。最初はキャラクター今やってないからすごいやりたいなって気持ちがあるのと、じゃあゆっくりですか。
こんなことに、この間、ずっとドラゴンボールなんですけれど、もう一度リメイクでやらせてもらってるんですよ。で、この間なんですね。で、来年も映画もやりますし、またテレビシリーズも同じようにもう一回アフレコをやり直す。なんで、とってもそれは僕にとってはラッキーなことだと思うんですね。やりたくても普通はできないんです。自分がやった仕事っていうのはそれでも完結して終わってしまってるけど、でも、例えば神様が僕はお前やっていいよと言われてるのかもしれません。それは、そういうオプチュニティがね、あったということは、すごいラッキーだと思ってます。でも、それはできるんで、今からとても僕はワクワクしてます。
So, you know, we're going to kind of parse this question out a little bit. The question was, you know, if there's any characters he misses doing, you know, and about, you know, if he's involved in the new Dragon Ball project, and if he was approached to do Andromeda Shun for Saint Seiya. So the first part of the question, you know, yes, you know, he was approached and he is doing, you know, both the remake, the movie, and the TV series too. So he's involved in all of it for Dragon Ball. And he feels very fortunate to have this opportunity because, you know, there are a lot of characters that he wants to play again. You know, of course, there are. But just because you want to do it doesn't mean you can do it. You know, if the show is complete, not much you can do about it, you know, even if he wants to. So, you know, taking it from that perspective, you know, he feels extremely fortunate that he has this opportunity. Like, you know, God gave him this opportunity, right, to do this. So he's extremely excited and is very, very happy to be able to do it.
So れはないです。今のところは、はい、やりたいですよね。やらせてください。
So, you know, going back to the Andromeda Shun question, no, you know, he's not involved in that, he's not doing that. He wants to, of course. So if you can make it happen for him, please, help him out a little bit, appreciate it.
I would love it.
Okay, sir.
Some of your most famous voice work are anti-heroes. Do you know why you end up voicing anti-heroes so often?
なんででしょうね。僕の部分にもその悪いやつがいるのかもしれません。
The question was, he plays a lot of anti-heroes, and you know, he wonders if there's a reason for that. And he said maybe because inside of him dwells a really bad man.
He loves blowing up planets.
でもそういう部分がないと、例えばその役ってできないと思うんですね。だから僕はやるときって、役者なんて全部そうだと思うんですけど、集中してるから、もうそのキャラクターと自分とのそ その境がなくなるっていうか、ベジータやってる時は僕がベジータなんですよ。他の人ではない。だから演じてるっていうんだったらそのまんまにならないと多分そういうものって伝わらないんじゃないかなと思うんですね。
はい。
So in all seriousness, he thinks that he probably can't play these roles if some aspect of that wasn't within his personality, within his being. Can't do it probably. Because the reason for that is because when you're focused on this type of work, when you're that into it, the line between the character and yourself, between himself, is gone. There is no right. There is no Vegeta. He is Vegeta. He is the character. That is who he is. Vegeta is Ryo-san. There's no difference. It's not a performance anymore.
But again, I have to say, I never can people.
Make sure you didn't blow up 3 pants on the way here.
Next.
Sir in the back.
As one of the by far, most recognizable, prolific seiyuu the world over, not so much your background, but what was the anime or manga or series that made you want to become a voice actor? Where you saw a specific anime and you were like, I want to be in this business, or somebody's specific work?
ちょっと違うんですね。一番世界で有名な声優さんで、なんで自分自身がこのアニメに出たいっていうのがありましたか？声優さんになりたいっていう気持ちになったアニメありますか？
今はいろいろそういうの思うかもしれません。僕はだから子供の頃とか見てる時はそんなふうに思わなかったですし、だからこれからやっぱりやりたいなってどんどん出てくると思うんですよ。
Maybe now, but as a child or as watching anime, never really had that. The question was, was there an anime, was there an anime that he wanted to be in that wanted make him want to be a voice actor? He said that no, maybe as a child when he was watching, never crossed his mind, right? But maybe from here on out, maybe there'll be a role or something that he feel that way. But when he was watching anime, no.
そうだな、今からで言えばやっぱりできたヒーローもやりたいしね、また合格にもやりたいし、いろんなやっぱり、面白いものでアクティングっていうのは他の人の人生を生きることだから、どんな悪いことをしてもいいことをしても別に私生活で忘れるわけじゃないので。そこがとても素敵な、僕だから演じるということがとても好きなのはそういうことなのかなと思います。
So right now, maybe he would like to play, maybe a hero or definitely more villains, because it's fun. As an actor, he's able to live these other lives. It's a great opportunity. And even if he's like, whatever he does, as an actor, he's not really, held accountable for that, whether it be.
そうだから堀川亮っていう僕自身はつまらないちっぽけな男ですよ。でもその役をやることによってその役の人生、例えばベジターとか死んだら何でもいいんですけど、その人の人生を生きることが演じるということだと思うので、いろんな人の人生を生きれるってすごく快感だなと思いますし、自分堀川亮という人生があるんだけれど、それとは別に他のそれぞれのキャラクターをそこで演じるっていうのは他の人の人生を生きることだと僕は思ってるんですよ。こんな贅沢な仕事は僕はないと思いますね。はい。
はい。So, as Horikawa Ryo-san, he doesn't consider himself that interesting of a person as Horikawa Ryo. However, he has the opportunity to lead these other characters' lives, you know, by performance, you know, to live other people's lives. You know, he has his own life, but through performance, he's able to live other people's lives. And there's no other job like that. He feels very, very fortunate and slightly spoiled to be able to have that opportunity to do that.
Thank you.
In the back, sir, in the blue, yes.
Yes. What was your favorite anime series growing up as a child? As well as how do you feel about Kumiko?
好きなアニメですね。なんだろう。
僕が見てたのは、例えば鉄人28号だけどありますか？
鉄人28号。
鉄腕が出るとか。
Astro Boy, 鉄人21号, Iron Man 21, Iron Robot 21.
ずっと見てて、とても興奮してましたし、あと、なんでもたくさんありますね。なんだっ
Yeah, he watched, you know, of course, Astro Boy and, you know, the Iron Robot 21 and Speed Racer was another one that really excited and enjoyed watching.
In the front, the girl in the back. Oh, you.
I actually missed out on the first part of this, so I'm going to ask, are both of you voice actors, and how does one get into a voiceover career?
A voiceover career? どうやって始めた？
How does one get into it?
難しい質問ですね。僕は自分で声優になろうと思ってできたわけじゃないので、一番大事なことは、演技者として、そういうことだけしか考えてなかったので、それが例えば今回僕はボイスアクティングになったりとか、でもどんな出方でも僕にとってはいいんです。表現するということは同じことなので、なんだろうな、どうやってなったか、それは多分神様がお前やれよって言ったと思います。
はい。That's a hard question. You know, how do you get into voice acting? You know, it's hard because, you know, he didn't really get into voice acting because he wanted to get into voice acting. You know, he really wanted to be a performer. You know, whatever the medium may be, it doesn't matter. He wanted to be a performer. It doesn't matter what, you know, that entails. You know, so to, in a roundabout way to answer your question, you know, perhaps it was divine intervention that allowed it to happen.
In the middle of the, yes.
So we've established that you're a good person and you don't kill people. When you get a new character and they are a terrible person, how do you get into that mindset to the point where you can love that character and you can be that character? Are there any techniques you use to like not?
そうですね。これはもう想像力、イマジネーションしかないと思うんですけど、もし僕がそういう立場にいたら、だってひどいやつじゃないですか。例えば、どんなキャラクターもいる。例えばベジータってね、自分の中にもそんなものないのかもしれないけど、想像して、もし俺が、それを想像していくしかないと思うんですね。
So the question was, you know, how do you get into the character of a bad person, a terrible person? That's a good question because, you know, really, you know, at that point, you really have to rely on your imagination. You know, if he has to take on the role of a villain, he has to think, okay, there might not be anything in him that's similar that he can, kind of bond with, a villain, maybe like Vegeta. That's not in his personality. That's not within his human nature, not in his psyche. But he has to imagine, what if, what if, there was something like that within him? What if is kind of the starting point. But you really have to rely on the imagination, perhaps.
だから一番嫌いな人の方が自分の中でありえないと思ってる方が演じやすいかもしれない。
So, for that reason, maybe, if he has a character that's a really hateful person, somebody that he despises, it might be easier in that regards, because you always have to use your imagination and create, what if.
Sir in the back, Dwight.
Has there ever been a time where, while you're voice acting, you've been like, I wish I didn't have killed that person, like any time where you're conflicted with
Well, I mean, you're going to ask that question, of course, there are many people.
まあね、それを言ってしまったらもうキリがないので。
But the question was if there's anybody that he killed that he wish he hadn't killed, and of course there's many people that he wish he hadn't killed. He kind of pointless. But he never once wanted to kill them personally. Never. Oh.
どんな人でも好きというか、いろんな人間って一つじゃないじゃないですか。簡単にいい人、悪い人って分けられるんじゃないので、いい人でもちょっと悪いことやったり、本当に極悪人でも、ひょっとしたらちょっといいことやってるかもしれないので、一概に言えないですよね。
In all seriousness, like any person, human beings are not one-dimensional. Characters are not one-dimensional. You can't sit there and say that, you can't differentiate villain, hero, good guy, bad guy. Even the worst person in the world has good attributes. So they do good. So you can't really look at it one-dimensionally.
Determinations, skills, a background of learning. What would you say is sort of like a requirement?
As a voice actor, or just an actor? 声優さんとして一番大切な大事な
同じ答えになってしまうかもしれませんけども、やっぱり最終的には人を好きになることだと僕は思うんですよ。どんな悪いキャラクターであっても、やっぱりどんな極悪人であって何であっても、やっぱり演じるときはね、そのキャラクターを愛さないとできないと思うので、だから人を愛する気持ちというのが、これ一番大事なことなのかなと、表現者として、そう思います。
So this might sound kind of repetitive because it is the same answer that we've been kind of going over all day today. That's kind of the message is that, to perform, you can't perform unless you really love that character. You have to really love that person. So, perhaps to answer your question, you have to learn how to like and love other people. Because, there are going to be roles that are villains that you have to be able to do. And you're going to have to like people that you yourself may not like, if that makes sense. So you have to develop that within your own self to like even the bad guys.
Sir.
First, I'd like to say I'm very glad
glad to see Mr. Horikawa. I've been attending Anime Expo for all of its existence, except for 2 years I couldn't go, happened to be the years that he attended. So I'm very glad to finally be able to see him in person. For many years, the producer and animation director of my favorite science fiction anime, Legend of the Galactic Heroes, attended that convention. And one of them mentioned a story which I wanted to ask about. He said that since Galactic Heroes has so much complex political and military terminology in it, it said that many of the voice actors, when studying their roles, would have to have a kanji dictionary next to them. And I wondered if you ever had to do that or had difficulty with pronouncing all those German names like Billabong Joachim von Merkens.
彼はこれ以上を利用してるんですけど、はい。りょうさんが言ったように、申し訳なかったんですけど、ラジオのガラクティックヒーローズっていうのがあるんですよね。日本版のガラクティックですけど、いろんなドイツの名前とか、軍隊の言葉とか、そういう感じで難しい言葉がたくさんあるので、辞書を使わなくちゃいけないっていうのがあったんですけど、そういうの難しいと思いました。
難しかったですね。多分銀河英雄伝説という作品が僕がやったラインハントという役をやったんですけど、日本語でも難しいです。すごく昔の言い回しというか日本語でも出てくるんで、とても大変だった思いがしたんです。それが実は僕は本当に、そのオーディションだったんですけれど、質問の内容は難しかったんですか？そう、難しかったです。とても難しかったです。でも難しければ難しいほどやりがいがある。さっきも言いましたけど、負けず嫌いな性格なので、できないだろう、できないだろうって言われると、Yes, I can って言っちゃうもんだけど。はい。
Yes, it was hard. It was extremely hard. He remembers that very well. Even in Japanese, it was hard. The question was the Legend of Galactic Heroes. You know, had a lot of political, military terminology, German pronunciations. Was it difficult? It was difficult. He remembers auditioning for that one. It was very hard. But you know, because it was difficult, you know, he enjoyed it. It was fun because he's the type of person who hates to lose. If somebody tells him that he can't do it, he'll turn around and tell him, "Yes, I can. Watch me." So it was fun. He said, "Don't tell me I can't do it."
Sir.
He stated earlier that he doesn't find his life as interesting as most of his characters. I'm just curious that since he absorbs the character and allows the character to absorb him per se, does he ever leave a project and find himself picking up characteristics or mannerisms from his characters that he has to kind of drop? And does he not find that, does it ever concern him?
難しいです。りょうさんの読んだキャラクターはそのキャラクターと一緒になってしまいますね。でそのキャラクターも少しがりょうさんのものになってしまうんですよね。でそれでちょっとこれやばいなとか、これちょっとなんとかしないといけないとか。
それはあります。たくさんあります。ほとんどありないですね。でもそれがまたもちろん本当にそんなことやってしまったら僕犯罪者になるからそれはありえませんけれども、そこだから楽しめるというかアクターの仕事ってそういうことだと全然自分と違う他の人の人生を生きることができるから、そこが醍醐味だと思いますね。危ないと思った時ありますよ。
So the question was, you know, he absorbs these characters. So, you know, do the characters leave, you know, bits of them within him? You know, does he pick up character traits that he has to drop? Yes, of course. It has happened many, many, many times. And actually, most of it is extremely dangerous. If he actually were to do it, he'd be a felon right now. He'd be a criminal. So, you know, but in all seriousness, you know, as an actor, you know, he thinks that that's the most. Oh, yeah. If he actually did that, he wouldn't be here with us today.
But he finds it thrilling?
But what's that?
He finds it thrilling?
He enjoys it. Well, not he enjoys it because as an actor, he's able to live these lives. You know, he gets to act out. You know, he gets to be these people. You know, these villains, these felons, these criminals. He gets to do it without repercussions in the real world. So, you know, for that, he feels extremely fortunate. In the back, sir.
So you got the opportunity to play the main protagonist in a Gundam series. Does that present any particular voice acting difficulties, maybe due to the long history, and/or kind of made you, you know, any personal feelings about, you know, being able to do the Gundam main character in the series?
はい、まあガンダムの質問なんですけど、ガンダムのガイアになってます。というバンドなので、それで自分でなんか不安がありましたが、このそんな第歴史の番組に出るというか。
ガンダム僕がやってるのは0083というやつなんですけど、それは非常に僕は若い時にやりまして、それをリメイクしてるんですよ。はい。その時に不思議なことに若い時にやった自分がやった仕事というのを聞けるわけですよね。それやりながら、ああ、こんなことをやってたんだ。リメイクする時に。で、もう一回レコーディングするわけですから、もう若い時です。一生懸命やってるわけですね。周りも見えずに。で、再び、これもだからラッキーだなと僕は思いますけど、やらせていただいて、もう一回、いい意味で、いろんな意味でいろんなことが見えるから、すごくやりがいがあったし、そういう意味で、なんでこんなことやってたんだろうっていうものもありましたしね。自分最初にやった時は。怖いといえば怖いですね。これからもそうですけど、やっても、それを考えたらもう、勝手にできないんで、考えないようにしてます。はい。
So the question was, you know, he played a role in Gundam as an antagonist. Gundam, of course, is a show with a long history. So if there was any kind of, you know, personally that he was worried or concerned about when taking on that role. Well, you know, interestingly enough, he did play a Gundam character back when he was very, very young, and you know, he was able to come back into a remake of that show. So he gets to listen to himself from back when he was young and remake it. So, you know, it's very interesting. He feels very lucky to be able to sit here and listen to, you know, things that he was doing when he was young, when, you know, things were different. You know, he can't foresee the future, don't know what's coming. He's very focused on his work back when he was younger. So now, you know, he looks back on that in the past, his work from the past, and he gets to reflect on it, and he always wonders, you know, he has all these opportunities to look back and goes, you know, maybe, why did I do that? Or, oh, you know, I wish I could say something about that. Or, you know, and so in that sense, yes, you know, maybe it is scary, you know, if you think about things in those terms. But if you concern yourself with that, if he concerns himself with that, you know, he might not be able to do it. He might not be able to work, you know, so he tries not to.
Hi, I am interested in going to audition. I'm ready to audition. What is the process? Do I need an agent? Should I join a union? How do I get to the audition? How do I find out about availabilities for auditioning?
日本にもユニオンがあるんですけど、ごめんなさい。もちろん日本にもそのユニオンに近いことは自転やってほしいというのは確かにあるんですけど、それに入ってればいないかということは僕はそのオーディションに合格実は入るということではないと思うんですけど、まあユニオンという組合ですから、日本でいう組合ですから、非営利団体ということですので、そこに入っていることが必ずしもあったりあったりするといいか悪いかという僕は一概には言えないと思うので、
そうですね。
The question was, she's ready to audition. What's the process? Should she join a union, find an agent? What's the process of finding out about auditions? This one's a little difficult to answer, mainly because the process here in the U.S. and in Japan is probably different, and it's more familiar with the process in Japan. So, to kind of answer your question the best he can, in Japan there is a union, but he doesn't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. He can't say it's a good thing or a bad thing to be in the union. Can't say that just because you're in the union you get access to jobs or opportunities that you might not otherwise. So, it's really difficult question for him to answer. I'm sorry.
やっぱり大事なことはその人自身、その人が素敵であれば、オーディションがそうだったかなと思います。どこにいようか、その人自身が、その人のパーソナリティが一番大事かなと思います。
So, but it does reiterate the point though, because regardless of where you're at, whether it be here in Japan or whatever, if your personality is great, if you refine that, your soul, as an actor, an actress, performer, you're going to pass the audition. It doesn't matter where you are, where you audition, what the process is. The most important thing is you want to get the audition, right? You want to pass it. That's the most important thing. So, really focus on that, regardless of what the process is. I apologize. I'm sorry if it wasn't a real answer to your question, is what he is saying.
Oh, that's okay. I just want to know how to connect with those agencies or places. How do I find out about them, about the opportunity?
Like, where do you find the audition?
りょうさんはどういうふうに見つけるんですか？はい、りょうさんはどういうオーディションのことを聞くんですか？
普通に、なんて言うんでしょうね、芸能の世界って結構日本でもそうですけど、狭いといえば狭い。例えばそのオーディション一般のオーディションというのがありますし、でもう限られた世界のプロフェッショナルだけのオーディションというのがあるじゃないですか。はい、僕はそこで選ばれてきたから、なんて言えばいいんだろう。アメリカではどういう状況なのかちょっとわからないんですけれど、
So him personally, as far as the auditioning process for Ryo-san personally is concerned, maybe it's the same in other industries, but the entertainment industry is very small. They're very close. So there are things called general auditions where it's open to the public, anybody can audition for, and many people know about. There's also something called smaller auditions for professionals, people who are established. And those are really the auditions that Ryo-san gets to go to, he gets called into. So the access to those is different. So he's not sure if it works that way here in the U.S., but that's how it is for him. So it's a little bit different. That's for him personally.
Sir, the glasses.
I had a question about the musical aspect of voice acting. What are your favorite musical moments on the job? And for someone who wants to do voice acting, do you have to know how to sight read sheet music?
You talking about music?
Yes.
Okay, sheet music, sight read sheet music. Okay.
音楽のですね、声優さんとして音楽できるの大事ですか、歌えるのことっていう
大事だと思います。表現するパフォームってことは、ボイスアクティングであろうが、それが歌であろうが踊りであろうが、スイングであろうが、表現の仕方は違うだけであって、表現したいという気持ち、ソウルっていうのが同じだと僕は思うので、だと思います。
Yes, the question was voice acting, is singing important, is being able to recite music, things of that nature, is that important? The answer is yes, it is important. It's very important. The reason for that is because it's performance. Regardless of what the media is, again, whether you're singing, dancing, voice acting, acting on film, stage, whatever it is, you're performing. And in that regards, the expression itself might be different, but the soul that's involved, what you put into it is all the same. So, it is important. You have to be able to do
it. In Vegeta's voice, can you say a line? Like, say something.
All right. Oh, wow.
come get you down. Final flash!
So we're actually coming up against the times, actually a little bit past 30, but we're going to keep going as much as we can. Ryo-san wants to keep going, so let's go to the next question, guys.